Okay, so I was reading this book, and it's something interesting, like, especially if you've ever thought about the way you dress or present yourself personally, but also, sort of to a greater extent, looking at how you view yourself in the marketplace and professionally, and using your dress and how you come across with your clothing to express yourself and grow. So, 0 to 1, Peter Thiel, right? Killer book. We'll do a video on it soon. No big deal. But there was this really interesting thing he pointed out, and it's something that sort of popped to me. He's got a great comparison. The guy's talking about energy and the energy bubble and all the green companies that were crashing in 2012, that time period, and looking at some of the CEO guys, right? So guy on the left was a big CEO that left guy is Elon Musk, right? And the guy on the right was a really big CEO at one of the energy firms that just kind of like went bust after some pretty bad regulation. They had bad product development, etc., etc. Point being that the company was bad, and they weren't able to fulfill their obligations to clients. And after extensive, arguments and litigation, both, in the public space, or with like private clients, but also with like federal regulators and the government, they just weren't able to keep the company afloat, even though they were really trying to work through a scenario. It's a really good book, for sure, and a lot of good insights. I'll do a video on it soon. But the point is that the guys, they just went out of business, even though they were super professional business salespeople. And it kind of got me thinking about, because if you look at the photo, right, Elon Musk, obviously a very successful guy, he's wearing a t-shirt, right? But this other guy who was the CEO of a major company, he's got, a whole suit on, tie, very, well dressed, and it came across that way to investors, apparently. I mean, he raised a lot of money for the company and brought strong, not necessarily profits. The guy had clients, but he wasn't doing a good job serving them, even though he had a professional outlook on it. So it was interesting to see how that manifested in the way the guy dressed, because, all of a sudden, he was working towards providing, they are selling like solar panels, and Musk kind of in the same renewable energy business. Obviously a little different aspects on what they do individually, but it was cool because he's like basically saying that you don't need to worry as much about how you appear if you can bring value to the marketplace. And it was cool to see that, because like it makes you wonder how much time you spend and work on dressing, like in suits, or versus just like putting a shirt on, right? And obviously so different depending on where you live and how warm it is. But even with temperature taken into account, just overall how much you invest in your personal look, not necessarily for social implications, but just to satisfy yourself and get on with your day and do your work, right? So it was interesting to see how super successful Elon Musk guy, and then a lot of other really big business guys just like chill. They just wear t-shirts and they don't really care. I saw the same thing with the interview. The guy who started Razer, right? The online, gaming peripherals company, really big success in that niche. The guy, CEO, he just wears like black t-shirts and jeans all the time. And that's kind of like his thing, right? He's like, I wear a black t-shirt, I just don't care. He doesn't wear, a suit or anything like that. And it's really interesting because you see a lot of guys in the financial space or high-level company execs, and they're just always doing, You gotta have a suit. You gotta look good for everyone. And especially in the sales space, like you look at Grant Cardone or, excuse me, you know, Dan Lok, like big guys in that area where they're selling themselves as a brand, they take a whole different look on that space. Possibly, you know, because it's like these guys, a lot of what they sell is tied with their image. So it's like, it makes you think, how do you want to incorporate clothing and how you dress in your brand image, right? Like Elon Musk, I think it's interesting because the guy sells cars, right? But he's not necessarily selling himself. And with SpaceX, right, it's not like he's trying to sell to like one person, right? He's got government contracts and he's just working with you know, bigger clients as they come on. So it's a little bit different than maybe if you're working with individuals one-on-one in perhaps a coaching environment, or where you're teaching things as an educator, or even if you're just working to grow your client base for whatever it is you want to sell. It was cool because it's like, it makes you think, what do you want to focus on in that aspect of your career? And how much time and effort should you put in the morning, right, to work towards something where, you know, all of a sudden you're spending 10 minutes tying a tie, getting your suit ready in the morning. Is that a good investment of your time? Is that something that's going to bring value to your clients, right? And it makes people, you know, and thinking about that as a, you know, investment, I always thought, like, you know, I would tie, I wear suits a lot because I think they just make me happy, right? And in here, you know, it gets kind of cold in the winter in North Carolina sometimes, so like you can't really just wear a t-shirt. So like something like the Windsor knot, right? Like I would always tie the Windsor knot as a way to prove to myself, you know, for whatever morning it is, that hey, you know what, I am worth it. I got it. I deserve a Windsor knot. And it was always kind of like a self-confidence building thing, but also a personal reassurance of, you know, what I'm doing works and matters. And, you know, it should happen, right? And same thing with my hair, right? Like, you know, I don't have any gel in it right now. And they may be questioning, should I, you know, dip my hand in here and like spend 10 seconds gelling up my hair in the morning? You know, is that going to be maybe a valuable investment in my personal standing for my clients and how I can bring value into the marketplace? Or is that really just something for confidence and ego? Because then you look at different aspects of how are we going to grow from that, and how is that going to change the way you do business? So really questioning where you want to invest your time, and how you want to use your resources, and how you come across in the marketplace to change the way that your clients perceive you. So it was an interesting dilemma. I was thinking, like, how would we use this, right? Because at one side of the room, it's like, yeah, right, just like wear a t-shirt, who cares? But then at the same time, it's like you want to come across as professional, right? Like, so I do a lot of work with like Pete one-on-one, trying to help them plan finances, plan, you know, books, writing, coaching, all that stuff. And it's like, do you want to come across chill, or do you want to come across as like, this is the stuff, right? And like, I can help you with this because I've been here, done it. You know, do I need a big, you know, suit to like set up my standing in the marketplace, or are we going to be cool as is, right? So like, not worrying as much about appearance, but just thinking about how you can bring yourself out there. And then it kind of goes a lot into kind of your history in the space and how well established you are. So like looking at different areas of expertise and thinking, okay, maybe if we're going, because, you know, Peter Thiel, you know, he also says, like, he does VC, right? So he funds companies, and he's like, you know, if a founder came in wearing a suit, they were instantly off his list. So like, if someone came across as too professional or too concerned maybe about how they came across with looks and perception rather than the value they brought with the company and how they led and managed their team, he would just cut them, right? He would be, you know, it's like he says, they were just out of there, and he wouldn't fund them. So it really was an interesting second perspective on how you dress and how personal impressions can affect how you're perceived in the marketplace. Because, like, you know, you wear jeans and a t-shirt and you go and, you know, work as a CEO, like, you know, no one's gonna stop you, right? You can't do anything about it. But then, like, if you're trying to get it, you know, like a minimum wage job somewhere, or maybe you're applying to like a big firm, you just got out of college, something like that, it's like it makes sense to wear a suit sometimes to an interview so you come across as more professional. So it was a really stark contrast between like an entrepreneurial background where these guys are growing what they do based on the tangible value they bring to the marketplace, versus setting yourself up as a strong position in an employer's eyes or in someone else's mindset, where all of a sudden you're worried more about how you come across to them rather than how you come across to the marketplace, which is what really determines your value. So it was a really interesting insight. It's something I think I'll think a lot more about now that I'm going into the space, and like, especially with Monero ads, right? Like, if you're pitching a company or selling something, how much emphasis should you put on your personal, you know, presentation, right? Like, first impressions matter. So it's like looking at different ways to apply that mentality, and at the same time balancing it effectively so that you're not spending too much time or emphasis or energy on one specific aspect where, you know, all of a sudden you're so worried that your tie doesn't look good, or like, I don't like, you know, I think they're cool. Like, it just depends on the scenario. And I think it's interesting to look at it as a one-size-fits-all thing, where it's like, just always wear a t-shirt, right? Just always wear a t-shirt and jeans. And it's probably a little easier to say that, you know, in California where it's like always hot. So maybe, you know, you can do alterations. But really questioning that status quo of, are we going to worry about how we look or the value we bring? And how are we going to balance those two to create a better proposition for potential clients in the marketplace? So I hope it helps. I think it's pretty interesting. I think one of the biggest things with it is finding what you're comfortable with, right? Like, you know, it's really easy to just put on a t-shirt, and t-shirts feel great and all. But at the same time, it's like, you know, sometimes I like to wear a suit just for fun, and because of the just little pizzazz you get from it. And it's interesting to kind of contrast the two. And, you know, it feels great when, you know, you look good and you know you look good. And that comes across in the way people treat you and how you go through daily tasks, and putting yourself in the mindset that, hey, you know, I'm worth it. I deserve to wear this suit because I've worked hard and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, with that mindset, there's the other side of it where it's like, I have the, you know, creative genius or the work put in at this point where I can just chill out, and I know that it's cool to wear a t-shirt. So sort of finding that self-defining value of what should I really wear. It's interesting stuff. I'll put a link below for 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Yeah, I just like